Hello, welcome to American Baker in Germany. I'm Michelle, and today we are making my very first wedding cake. A friend of mine asked me to make a wedding cake for her son's wedding, and as inspiration, she's using a farewell cake I made a while back. Let's picture it here. And she just wants to change the colors a little bit and the design just a tiny bit. So let's get started.
The colors that they wanted were forest green and Bordeaux red. Bordeaux red is a bit difficult as it's a very dark, slightly purpley red. I started with red fondant. I added some black to it, which dulled the color quite a bit more than it darkened it. So I added more red gel food coloring to get the brightness back. I also added quite a bit of purple gel food coloring. I compared the color to Google images of Bordeaux red, but basically this color was very difficult to attain. When I was finally happy with the color, I rolled it out and cut out a whole bunch of circles with the circle cutter. And I made about 20 fondant roses. If you need a tutorial on how to make a fondant rose, I'll link it in the card. Another thing I did was prep the cake board. I covered an old cake board in silver craft paper and lined the edges with metallic washi tape. Then I covered the whole thing in plastic wrap to make it food safe. I also cut out a circle of cardboard just smaller than the top tier and covered it in tinfoil. Next, I placed the larger size of cake onto the cake board and filled the cake with buttercream. This is vegan chocolate cake and Swiss meringue buttercream. The bottom tier is 8 inches. The wedding party was quite small, so they didn't want a huge cake. Then I crumb-coated the cake with the buttercream. I stacked the 6-inch tier on top of the small cake board I made earlier and crumb-coated this tier as well. Then I frosted both tiers with more buttercream and cleaned up the cake board with a paper towel. Now here I didn't really add much more frosting. What I was mostly doing was smoothing the frosting nice and smooth. Now the couple specifically requested marzipan instead of fondant. I used fondant for the decorations because marzipan doesn't make a clean edge, but I covered the cake with the marzipan. If you're not familiar with marzipan, it's a mixture based on ground almonds. So tiny pieces of ground almonds create a less smooth texture than fondant can make. The good news though is that you can almost use it the exact same way. So I rolled it out and draped it over the cake, smoothing it with my hands and cutting off the excess just like I would when covering a cake in fondant. Then I did the exact same thing with the bottom tier. If you like what you see, hit that like button, and while you're down there, hit subscribe for a new cake video every week. Then I placed 4 dowels in the bottom tier, smeared some buttercream to help it stick, and placed the top tier on top. The forest green fondant was much easier to get. I bought it pre-colored. I decided to use my clay extruder to make a long strip of green. First, I decided what size to use. Then I chose the smallest one. Then I rolled out a thick snake of green fondant and put it in the clay extruder and extruded a very long strip of green fondant. The original inspiration cake had a very geometric design with regular boxes along the bottom tier with X's in every second one. I felt for a wedding that it was just too regular and too geometric, so I decided to go with a trendier geometric design. I started with a line of green fondant at the bottom of both tiers. I thought about it kind of a long time before I started. But I eventually laid the rest of the lines in different directions, some vertical, but most diagonal, creating triangles and trapezoids on the sides. This is an abstract geometric design and is trendy for wedding cakes or other formal cakes for the past couple of years. Once I was happy with the top tier, I began creating the same kind of abstract geometric design on the bottom tier. The final touch was to place the fondant roses. I put the largest one right in the center of the top of the cake. Then I surrounded it with other roses. Then I placed roses around the middle as well as the bottom of the cake. I am in love with this cake. Forgive the artificial lighting, I just finished this on time before it got picked up. The Bordeaux red roses are gorgeous and photos didn't even do it justice. I love the high contrast of the pale white and the dark green and red decorations. I don't think I've ever made so very many fondant roses at one time either. Congratulations to the bride and groom. For more cakes and tutorials, visit our website at americanbakeryingermany.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to follow us, we post every day.